Picture this: a man sentenced to spend the rest of his life behind bars, cut off from the outside world, somehow becomes the head of one of the largest, most complicated family networks in all of dancehall music. 3 baby mothers. A common-law wife who raised his sons almost entirely alone. A fiancée who fell in love with him through prison phone calls. 2 grandchildren born while he was locked in a cell. And now, in 2026, at 50 years old, he stood in front of 65,000 people in England and revealed the one piece of news that changes his family story forever. This is the real, verified inside story of Vybz Kartel's family empire. Not the exaggerated rumors you see floating around online, but the actual facts, the actual women, the actual children, and the actual drama that has played out in public for over a decade. And by the time this video ends, you're going to understand why his family situation might be one of the most misunderstood stories in Jamaican music, and why the 2 women closest to him still haven't fully made peace with each other. Before we get into the family, you need to understand who this man is and what he survived to build the life he has now. Vybz Kartel's real name is Addi Palmer, born January 7, 1976, in the working-class community of Waterford, just outside Kingston, Jamaica. He grew up skipping school, hustling, chasing something bigger than his circumstances ever suggested was possible. By the early 2000s, he had transformed himself into one of dancehall's most dominant and controversial voices, winning DJ of the Year, releasing his debut album, and building a movement around himself known as the Gaza, with millions of loyal fans who treated his every word like gospel. But in 2011, his life took a devastating turn. He was arrested and later convicted in connection with the murder of an associate and sentenced to life in prison. For more than a decade, Vybz Kartel became a father, a partner, and eventually a grandfather from behind bars, forced to experience the biggest moments of his family's life through letters, phone calls, and photographs. When the Privy Council in London eventually overturned his conviction and freed him, it wasn't just a legal win. It was the first real chance he'd had in over 10 years to actually show up in person for the people who had been waiting for him the entire time. Now let's talk about the woman who carried that family on her back while he was gone, because honestly, her story deserves way more recognition than it usually gets. Her name is Tanesha Johnson, better known to fans as Shorty. She and Kartel were together for almost 2 decades, and while they never legally married, she became his common-law wife in every real sense of the word. Together they have 3 sons: Jaheim, known professionally as Likkle Vybz; Akil, known as Likkle Addi, and their youngest, Iko, sometimes called Worl Boss Jr. While Kartel sat in prison, Shorty was the one raising these boys day to day, managing their upbringing and eventually managing their careers, because both Likkle Vybz and Likkle Addi went on to become dancehall artists in their own right. They started out performing together as PG-13 before rebranding as UTG, short for Uptown Gaza, carrying their father's legacy forward in real time while he watched from behind bars. Shorty has never hidden how she feels about her role in Kartel's life. During a period of online drama involving other women connected to his Gaza empire, she went live and made her position unmistakably clear, declaring herself the true First Lady and stating flatly that she didn't care who else he wanted to be involved with, because she knew exactly where she stood. That kind of loyalty, built over almost 20 years, is a huge part of why so many longtime fans still consider her the emotional backbone of his family story. But there's another woman whose story completely reshaped the public's understanding of Kartel's personal life, and her entrance into the picture happened under the most unlikely circumstances imaginable. Around 2015 and 2016, while still incarcerated, Kartel began communicating with a Turkish social worker named Sidem Öztürk. What started as messages into a prison cell slowly grew into a real relationship, and eventually Sidem began showing up publicly at his side, attending industry events and appearances even while he remained behind bars. In 2022, it was confirmed that the 2 were engaged, and the reaction online was instant and divided. Some fans embraced Sidem as the woman who showed up for him during the darkest, most uncertain years of his life, when almost nobody else could reach him. Others stayed firmly in Shorty's corner, pointing to nearly 2 decades of history and 3 children as proof of where his loyalty should lie. The debate got so heated across fan communities that it turned into a running phrase online. Some say Sidem, some say Tanesha. A perfect summary of just how split the fanbase remained over which woman truly belonged by his side. Then came the moment that changed everything, and it happened on one of the biggest stages of his career. At Reggae Land 2026, held at the Milton Keynes National Bowl in England, Kartel headlined in front of a crowd of more than 65,000 fans. Midway through his set, he called Sidem up onto the stage with him. He addressed the massive crowd, told them to read between the lines, and then launched into one of his most suggestive hits from 2009 while gently placing his hand on her visibly pregnant stomach. The crowd erupted. This would be Sidem's first child, and Kartel's 8th overall. Social media exploded with reactions within minutes. Fans flooded his comments with congratulations, with one person writing they had never felt so genuinely happy for a celebrity couple they don't personally know, and another joking about how everyone seems to be starting new families in their 50s these days. For a man who lost over a decade of physical presence with his children because of prison, this public pregnancy reveal, delivered in front of tens of thousands of witnesses, felt like a defiant celebration of everything he'd finally gotten back. But the story doesn't stop there, because 2026 has also been the year Kartel started reconnecting with parts of his family he barely knew. Earlier this year, he revealed that he met one of his daughters, Amani, for the very first time in his life. He documented the emotional reunion on Instagram, sharing photos of the two of them together, describing the moment as something that humbled him deeply. Fans flooded the post with emotional reactions, many pointing out how strikingly similar she looked to her older sister. This detail matters because it shows just how scattered Kartel's family really is. Beyond his 3 sons with Shorty, he's also father to daughters Addi and Amani, along with his youngest son Iko, bringing his confirmed total to 7 children across multiple different relationships, with an 8th now on the way through Sidem. Not every mother involved has stepped into the public eye, and Kartel has kept a lot of the finer details private. But what's undeniable is that this is a man whose children are spread across different homes and different chapters of his life, all of whom he is now, finally free at 50 years old, actively trying to build real relationships with. And the family tree gets even more surprising once you realize Kartel is also a grandfather, a title he earned in one of the most controversial ways possible. While he was still in prison, his son Likkle Addi became a father at just 15 years old, with the child's mother reportedly 18 at the time. The news caused significant backlash, with critics questioning whether Likkle Addi was far too young to handle that kind of responsibility. Kartel, even from behind bars, publicly defended his son on Instagram, telling critics not to worry about those 2 millionaires, a direct reference to the money his sons had already earned through their own music careers by that point. Both of his eldest sons became fathers while their own father remained locked away, meaning an entire generational shift happened in his family before he ever walked free. Kartel became a grandfather without ever holding his grandchildren in person until years later, learning to love them through photos and video calls sent into a prison, the same way he had to love his own children from a distance for over a decade. Since his release, the dynamic between the women in his life hasn't disappeared. It's simply matured into something quieter. When reports surfaced that Sidem had moved into his home, Shorty responded publicly, though not with anger or accusations. She shared a message about refusing to entertain negativity and focusing on peace, and around the same time, posted a video calling out men who flaunt new partners just to spite their exes, something many fans read as a subtle nod to her own situation, even though she never mentioned Kartel by name. Despite everything, Shorty and Kartel have continued to be seen in public together, including showing up to support their sons at performances, which says a lot about how they've chosen to handle nearly 2 decades of shared history alongside his new relationship. There's been no dramatic public feud, no scorched earth social media war. Just 2 people who built a family together, finding a way to coexist for the sake of their children and grandchildren, while a new chapter unfolds in front of the world. There's also a business dimension to all of this that rarely gets talked about, and it explains a lot about how Kartel is able to support a family this large and this spread out. Even during his years in prison, He never stopped releasing music, continuously dropping mixtapes and albums that kept his name dominant on the charts and kept revenue flowing. He also built out his own label, giving him a direct hand in launching and managing the careers of his sons, which means the money he's earning isn't just supporting his own lifestyle, it's actively funding the next generation of his family too. Both Likkle Vybz and Likkle Addi have been able to build their own independent income through music, in large part because their father gave them a platform and a blueprint to follow, even while he was locked away. That's part of why Kartel could confidently brush off the backlash over his teenage son becoming a father, calling them millionaires without hesitation, because the family's earning power was never solely dependent on him being physically present. At one point, there were even reports that Shorty and the three sons were being lined up for their own reality television series, reportedly titled The Palmers, which would have given fans an unfiltered look at what daily life actually looks like inside this family, from the pressures of fame to the complicated dynamics between Kartel, Shorty, and the rest of the household. While that project hasn't materialized into anything the public has seen so far, the fact that networks were even circling this family for a docuseries tells you just how much appetite exists for the real, unfiltered version of this story, beyond the headlines and the social media speculation. It's a reminder that Kartel's family isn't just gossip fuel, it's genuinely one of the most compelling human stories in dancehall right now, filled with resilience, complicated loyalty, and reinvention. And maybe that's the real takeaway here. The thing that gets lost in all the debate over who deserves the title of First Lady or how many children he actually has. This is a family that got fractured by a life sentence and somehow found a way to keep functioning, keep earning, keep showing up for each other, even when the man at the center of it all couldn't physically be there. Shorty raised three sons largely alone and turned them into successful artists. Sidem stayed committed to a relationship that had every reason to fall apart under the weight of distance and uncertainty. And Kartel himself, now free, is spending his 50s trying to be present in a way prison never allowed, whether that's meeting a daughter for the first time or preparing for an 8th child he'll actually get to raise from birth. However you feel about the choices involved, it's hard to deny that this is a family defined by persistence. What makes this entire story so gripping isn't just the number of children or the competing relationships. It's the fact that Vybz Kartel is essentially trying to rebuild everything that prison took from him. For over a decade, he was a father mostly in name, forced to parent from a cell while his sons grew into men, launched music careers, and became fathers themselves, all without him physically present for any of it. Now, at 50, engaged to a woman who stood by him through years of total uncertainty, expecting an 8th child, reconnecting with daughters he barely knew, and still maintaining a relationship with the mother of his eldest 3 sons, he is quite literally trying to stitch together a family that got fractured by circumstances his children never chose. His sons carry his musical legacy forward under the Gaza name. His daughters are stepping into public life for the first time in years. And his fiancée is giving him the chance to raise a child from day one, something he never got to do with most of his other kids. Whether you see this as a man finally getting it right after everything he's lost, or a personal life too tangled to ever fully untangle, one thing is certain. This remains one of the most emotionally complicated family stories in dancehall history, and it is still being written in real time throughout 2026. Now I want to hear your honest take in the comments, because this always brings out the strongest opinions. Do you think Shorty deserves more recognition for holding that family together for nearly 20 years while Kartel was locked up? Or do you think Sidem earned her spot by standing by him through the hardest, most uncertain years of his life? Should a man in his position keep his family situation more private? Or do you actually respect him being this open about his kids and relationships after everything he went through to get his freedom back? Type your real opinion below, because I read every single comment on this channel. And if this video taught you something new about Vybz Kartel's family that you didn't already know, hit that like button and subscribe, because there's a lot more of this story still to come.